Hello, everyone, and welcome to season 3 of I'm the Mama podcast, where we discuss the ins, the outs, and everything in between of being a mom. I'm your host, Ashley L., and I'm excited to be with you today. Now, it's been a few weeks since the last time you heard from me. I had to take some mommy time and do some things and get myself together. Don't know if you can hear a little lisp. Yes, your girl has Invisaligns now. And so with that, interestingly enough, I've always just wanted braces and things when I was younger. But interestingly enough, the doctors told me that, or the dentist told me that, Ashley, this could have been from your pregnancy, you stressing. And since pregnancy, my teeth have been shifting. And they're like, Ashley, this is stress that you're doing to yourself. You're grinding at night and things now. And I'm just like, are you serious? All of this from being pregnant and possibly having my child? But anyways, that's life, right? So we're going to get these teeth back straight. But anyways, it's the holiday season. I'm so excited. It's one of my favorite holiday seasons. And it's just something about the Christmas holiday that just brings you peace, an extra sense of happiness and things like that. So I hope that each and every one of you are enjoying your time and maybe taking some time for yourself. Now, I know you see these two beautiful ladies with me today. And so I am joined by Vanessa and Shayna, who are life coaches of Ideal Balance. They are best friends. They're business partners who met in 2012. And their kids were in pre-K together. So that's how they met each other. Now, can you imagine from then, those kids are now 14 years old. Talk about how fast time flies, right? And they're both Christ followers. They're wives to amazing husbands, and they're moms to awesome kiddos. They actually live in Navarre, Florida, where they founded Ideal Balance in 2020. And interestingly enough, they founded it on April Fool's Day. But this wasn't a joke. These ladies are on a mission to, help women to get unstuck and just level up their lives, help women just level up their lives. And that's what we're all about. So they understand that many do not need more information. You just need to be able to take action. So they make doing the uncomplicated and doable. All right. So thank you, ladies, for joining us today. So excited to have you. And again, just glad for you to be with us today. So for today, what we're going to be discussing is ways to help moms find a balance that, I like to consider that a sweet spot, because it's very hard to know what a balance is, right? Mm-hmm. And so whether that be, health related, whether that be for me, getting organized and becoming financially free. These are a lot of things I feel like moms think about, whether it's during the pregnancy or as soon as they have the child, they're trying to kind of shift, right? So we become unbalanced, really. So Vanessa and Shayna, I want to start off by asking you a question that I've received personally a lot. Is there really a such thing as balance after becoming a mom?
Absolutely. You can, I love the phrase of it takes a village. And I think it's important for women to know that you're not in this alone. Even if you are a single mom, that doesn't mean that you have to do it alone. And there is a way to find balance in, your finances, in yourself, in your home organization, in your health. But you can't try to do it all at once. Mm-hmm. You have to tackle one thing at a time. So that way, when you feel successful doing one thing, then you can, okay, now I can tackle this. But when you're spread in 5 different directions, you're going to go shorter in those directions. Whereas if you can just focus in one thing at a time, you're going to go further faster.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting about that question is that you have to define it, though. That's where people get messed up. And that's why they're confused about whether you can have balance or not. That is obviously different for every mom. Yeah. It's different for every woman. And you have to personally define what that means. What does that mean to me? What does my life well-lived, present, balanced mean to me? Mm-hmm. And then when you define that, then you can start to work toward it. But I think a lot of times we see it as some ambiguous thing, something that's possible for some other people, but obviously not us. But it means something different to every person. So I think starting with that is important, and then going from there.
Yeah. And also I think moms see other people's lives And they think that their balance has to be what, like Shayna said, you have to find out what's important for you. So they look at somebody else's and go, oh, I have to be doing that. I have to be doing this. I have to be
Yes.
high achieving in this area, that area. And no, it is very different and very unique. I like to say for each person, and that's okay. And own your own life, own your own balance for that.
You ladies are just hitting on some things right there, because what resonates is, just like you said, I have found myself, comparing myself as, whether it be on social media or just a close friend that has had a child as well. And, feeling like, maybe I'm not, doing something as quickly as they are. And I'm sure they're probably in the same aspect looking at me like, well, Ashley's doing this a lot quicker. And so, like you mentioned, not comparing, but really just kind of figuring that out for yourself, what that is, So that is great information that I think that we can all just really try to focus on that a little bit more instead of focusing on everybody else. So if you wouldn't mind just taking a moment just to define the value of a mom, defining that value for me, in your opinion.
Okay. Well, I think the first thing that we have to do is define when we're talking about defining your value, it's kind of like there's the stay-at-home mom camp, there's the working mom camp, there's the value to be found in both. And I think you have to just, again, look internally and say, what is what do I value? And if there's if there's a spouse involved, what do we value? What is really important to us? And that's where we get our value. Obviously, your creator has a lot to do with that and everything, but you got to define your own value first. And then the problem that we have is we try to we put value on money more than we put value on what matters more than money, right? Money is a tool to do all the other things, but what is the most valuable thing to you and your family? It's usually not going to become, money's not going to be at the top. It's going to be other things. And that's why you have to really not tie your value to financial, tie your value to what you actually value as a couple or as a mom. And then we can start to look at some of those other things.
Yeah. And it's really hard because, especially if you had started a career or were pursuing a career right when you had kids, everything kind of pauses. And like Shayna said, you want to contribute in some way, but our brain goes immediately to how can I contribute financially to the household? How can I help? When you can actually help a ton by being home, raising your own kids, instilling those morals and values that are important to you and your spouse or just you into your kids and raising wonderful human beings. That is so important. But we sometimes don't think about that immediately. We think about contributing as finances and contributing as this and contributing as that. How can I help? How can I do this? When if you just sit in it for a moment, you would really find out what's truly important to you.
Yeah. And I think that like Vanessa said, being a mom, it has its own value. We're not looking at earthly things, which is money, right? To figure out what's valuable and what we consider valuable as humans. So we have to look at that really specifically. And, the Bible says that, a noble wife is more valuable than rubies or jewels. And that's important because that's our modern version. You as a wife and a mom and what you're doing is more valuable than any money. Like, period. There's no money that can replace what you're doing or be more valuable. So that's really important to hold on to and to sit in and to really, I think, like Vanessa said, to have an exercise where you really dig in deep. What does that mean? There are some financial things, like obviously childcare is costly, but it's like, I'm there for my children. I'm speaking life over my children. I am maintaining a place of calm and peace in my home for me and my family. And that means that we're all better people. We're all better people as we leave the house and all of this. What does that actually mean? And so I think it's really important to define that real quick. We can go to the next level. We can go to looking at other stuff, but defining it for yourself is important.
And you're never going to get that time back. And I think that's really important. We try, okay, what's the next step? What's the next step? All right, I'm doing this. Okay, but what's step 2, 3, 4, and 5? And we don't sit in step 1, which is, hey, you just had a baby. If we're talking about brand new moms, let's sit in that for a moment and understand how important it is for you to be there and raise him or her, and you're never going to get that time back.
Yeah.
And if you have to pause your career, if for a moment, that's okay.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there is value in being
For
home
sure.
and what you're doing and the morals that you are going to instill. And nobody else can do that. You know, my family is close by. My children were raised by my village, my mom, my grandma, but still there is something in being home and you doing it that, again, you can't pawn that off on anybody else.
No, that I wish I talked to you ladies while I was pregnant. Because again, like you said, like, I think it's the worry that comes on. Like, it's an exciting moment, but then you start worrying, like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. You know, I want to be able to do this, but financially, like you said, finances always comes to the top of mind, but it shouldn't. And
Right.
so even looking back, I had to cut my time short because I had to get back to the money, or I thought I had to get back to the money. And so even now I kind of look at it where I'm blessed now to be able to have a job that gives me somewhat of a balance. But before that, I didn't. And
Yeah.
so I was missing out on so much. Like you mentioned, I had a village, or I have a village that's very involved in our child's life. So it's good that he's able to spend time with them. But I feel like I was missing out on things. Like I said, fortunately, I have more of a balance now where I can be a part of a lot more. But to me, time, that's the priceless thing. You can't get that back. And so whether it be moms or dads, whoever, just being able to be in that moment. Like you said, don't take a step forward. I love that.
Yeah.
Don't think about 5, 6, and 7. You got to get through one first.
Yeah.
So, wow.
And
Again.
I think it's so important to give yourself grace either way. So give yourself, we're talking about, you know, if we're talking about talking to Ashley in the past, we'd say, give yourself grace, give yourself a minute to just be here. And
still.
it's okay. It's okay. And then also give yourself grace if that's not what happened. That's okay. Because God, the one thing that I love is God has a plan for your child, whether you mess it up or not. So don't worry about that. There is zero reason to sit in any shame or condemnation or shouldn't I have of the past. That's not for you. That's not what we're here for. So if you feel like maybe I didn't do it the right way, or I could have done it better, oh, well, welcome to being human. Anyway, so let's move forward and look forward. But I also think it's important to acknowledge that the way of the world is to keep you in worry. The way of the world is to keep you worried about money, and keep you focused on some of those things. And also, like Vanessa said, the next. Well, we're not promised tomorrow. We're going to hang out here. We're going to really be present and enjoy here. And God has, and there are ways to work, to look at your finances and to be a good steward and all of that stuff, but not in a worrisome way, right? So I think we can do both. And but either way, grace. Like we're all figuring it out as we go, and that's the most important thing.
Yes. So with that being said, you know, now ladies, from my personal experience, you know, it can be tough, like we're talking about, you know, for a mom when making the decision on, you know, whether to go back to work or, you know, wanting to be a stay-at-home mom and just trying to figure that part out. So when it comes to finances, because that is something that we're all going to be thinking about, what are some recommendations that we should be considering when contemplating on this?
So if you guys want to take notes, you can.
Yeah, because we're going to blow through this. It's a lot of information that we spend like one-on-one time with. But so take notes. Go ahead.
Yeah, just take notes, and you can fast forward, record, or pause whenever. So the first thing you want to do is you want to define what the win is. We kind of talked about that a little bit, like define your value, but now you need to define what the win means for you. Do you want to add to that?
Yeah, well, no, but so, but yes. So when we're looking at whether or not I need to go home, this is math. I was just talking to a client this morning. It's not feelings. It's not worry. It's facts. It's math is facts. So let's look at the math. That's what we're going to do. What does it cost for you and your household? So that's the first thing you're going to figure out. Like, what do we cost as a household? And then the next thing, so that's where you're going to write that down. The next thing is to figure out what is the income that we have. So those two are the numbers that we need to look. Those are facts. And those are going to define factually whether or not you really truly need to go back to work or if you can stay home. Okay. And we can work with those numbers, but that's the first two numbers that we want to kind of figure out.
Yeah. And then, you know, what will be your income if you do stay at home? Because there is value in that as well, right? Like how much value and what are you adding by staying home versus going to work? And then is there a gap in between? So did you write everything down, and are your expenses more than your income? But what's the real reason for that? Are you overspending? Or are you putting the air down a little too low in the summer just because it's comfortable versus that's what you actually need? Are you running the water a little too long? You know, there are ways to close the gap in your budget. And like Shana said,
without going back to work.
Right. Without going back to work. This is what I love about finances, because it is literally black and white.
Yeah.
So there's a way, and also credit cards. Like, are we using credit cards? Is that another reason why there's a gap in your budget? Because now you have to pay minimum payments on it versus if you had just paid cash, you would only spend what you have.
Yeah. So the important thing is to look, like she said, we're going to look at the expenses and the income. If there is a gap, is there a way to change that gap without you having to go back to work? Not that you can't go back to work, not that you can't add side income, but we need to know the facts of, is this absolutely necessary or is this in my head imaginary? And that's what is the most important thing. Is, am I worrying about it? Am I making it bigger than it is? Is it a real problem? Is it a real problem? Let's get it on paper and make sure it is. So then if there is a gap, that's what Vanessa said. Are we overspending? Are there places we can cut? Maybe we don't need to be eating out as much. Maybe we don't need to be going to jujitsu for $200 a month or whatever. We can work out at home or whatever. I don't even know, whatever it is. Yeah. Are there sacrifices that we're willing to make because we think staying home is really more valuable than, and there's some opportunities for me to take care of some things if I'm at home than whether or not I need to be paying so much. Because what we see so often, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, is how work adds expenses, and it just starts to pile up. Ashley, it's like, well, first, I need childcare. I need just a little childcare, and now I'm so busy and I'm so stressed out. We're eating out more, and now because of that,
I don't want to cook it. I don't have time to cook.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh, and also I don't have time, so now we need to hire a lawn care person because that's important. And then it just keeps.
Oh, wait, I need new clothes.
Oh, you have to get new clothes for your new job, and so it's like, okay. What just happened, right? So we need to look at that and make sure that, and just look at those things when we're thinking about going back to work.
Yeah. And your time, like, people forget that your time is money. It is worth something. So you really need to figure out, like Shana said, when you are wanting to go back to work, how much extra time is that going to add? Is your job an hour away? Is it going to be 30 minutes away? Is it a stay-at-home job, which is fine, but now you need to find childcare, so you have to bring your child somewhere and then come back. So that's more gas, that's more added time that you may not have. So there's just a lot of things to look at, and we're for it both ways, so whether you stay home or not, because there's ways to work around it in each scenario, and you just have to find out what works for you.
And that, like she said, it's black and white. We have to be realistic. So we want to make sure that, one, there's a need to go back to work financially. We can talk all day long about how you have another part of your brain that you want to use, and we're here for that. We love it. But we're talking financially right now. Is there a need? And then what is the actual cost of you going back to work? Because that is a thing. And let's make sure we look at that. And like she said, you can never, like you said earlier, you can always get more money. You can never get more time. So let's keep that in mind. And what is your mental health worth? There's this thing, I hate to say it, women, we can work, but we still have to take care of everything else. And you're never going to feel good if your house is a disaster and you're making $250,000 a year. You're not going to feel good. Like, that's just who we are. And it's frustrating sometimes, maybe, and it feels like it's all on our shoulders, but that's it. So if you don't have your mental health, which does come from some of those homemaker, wifely, motherhood duties, as well as what other things that you're amazing at, if your mental health's not there, then how much is that worth? Right. So we just have to keep all of that in mind. It's important. We just has to be part of the conversation.
Yeah. And just know that, like Shana said, your mental health, it's very important, because it's going to come at a cost when you're, again, being pulled in different directions. I was just listening to something this morning, and they were talking about, whether you like it or not, your spouse, if you have a spouse, is probably not going to be available between the hours of 8 and 6. You're the one that's going to be picking up the kid if they're sick. You're the one that's going to be running the animals to the vet visits or dentist or whatever. They're your kid to their doctor's appointments. You're still going to be the one doing that, the majority of moms. So you have to factor that in as well.
Yep.
And that your mental health that is a drain, because now you just got this job, but your child has an appointment and you have to take him. So you have to take time off. So you just have to
you have to be fair to yourself. Like, be fair. It's not fair to have all of this pressure on you, especially if you don't need it. And that's like when Vanessa is saying, working on one thing at a time. Let's get settled at home. Maybe like, let's figure this out. Let's figure this new human routine out. and feel good, get your health, your mental health, your sleep, get all of that figured out. And then I think if you do a really good job at that and you have your systems, your home is organized, like you feel so good, then you have an overflow, right? Then you're ready. Okay.
And you can
what can I do
Yeah.
next? Now I have energy. I feel like this is all figured out. I feel good and I can move on. I think that's always important to think about it that way. Now, when it comes to the budget, how can we be creative about filling that gap? You could obviously get a side hustle. You could be going back to work. You could do any other number of things.
Have a garage sale,
but
sell
then
things.
On the other side, you could sell some stuff. You can change your budget, which means making sacrifices. Like we said, we're maybe not going to do this this year, or we're not going to whatever. What is more important? Is vacation more important, or is me being at home, or whatever?
Yeah.
And so those are some things that we can do to be creative if there's a gap between income and expenses, right? And then, another thing that you need to look at, what is the realistic amount of income that you're going to add? That is the frustrating part that for almost every woman in America, like once I get through all of those expenses we just talked about, what am I actually adding versus, like we just said, what am I sacrificing?
Yeah. And again, it comes down to that value. So great. After paying for all that extra stuff, you're only going to be bringing $100 in a month. Is that actually worth it? Or can you just cut $100 or more, or actually probably less, because you're not adding all those extra things out of your budget to be able to stay at home?
Yeah.
I remember when I was home, it was like a game. How low could I get the electricity bill? Like, I'm not even kidding. I was like, okay, I think at one time it was like $85. And I remember posting it on social media. I was like, so excited.
Where's my medal?
I know. I was like, I deserve a medal for that.
Where's my trophy?
But it was important for me to be able to be home at that time, to raise my kids. So I made every effort I could to make that happen. And we cut our income in half when I stayed home. And my husband looked at me, he's like, we can't do this. And I was like, oh, honey, we're going to do this. And I'm the one that pushed for it. And so I had to, by golly, make sure that it happened. Yeah, and we did. But you can. It's like when people ask, is it the right time to have kids? It's never a right time. You just make it work, right? You just figure it out and you make it work. So
no, that right there, I'm going to go back and watch my own recording because yes, I mean, you ladies hit the nail, like just when I say on point regarding, again, going back to the step-by-step, like figuring out what that is first, doing that, then moving on to the next one. But the biggest thing that resonated with me, all of it, but I do find myself where I'm tired after work. And so it's like, what are we going to eat? And I try to make sure that my son eats a lot healthier than his dad and I used to, or how we do sometimes. There's certain things that we'll eat that he just can't eat. I'm more so, I like to prepare his food, but it's like, I don't feel like cooking today. What are we going to do? Like you mentioned, my husband and I, we both work from home. So even right now, amongst that, just trying to keep these bills down, just to kind of show that shift, like maybe if we could just figure out how to bring these bills down a little bit, one of us, because it's not always going to be the mom. Some moms are going to want to go back to work, which is fine. But again, like you mentioned, how can we make this best for us? And so again, trust me, I'm going to go back, take some notes, and I hope each and every one of you viewers are taking some notes. But the great part about a podcast is you can fast forward, you can go back as well. So you can listen to this as many times as you need to. So please be sure to do so. All right.
Yeah. And I just want to say Sheet Pan is the best friend of the busy mom for food. Just this is our recipe. Ready? Meat,
vegetable, salt, pepper, garlic, and olive oil. That's it.
Put it in the oven for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, depending on what you put, and you're all done. And you just, and it's so easy.
And
so
guess
healthy.
what? You have one thing to wash.
Yes. And that's the most important
part. Yes. We didn't even talk about the dishes.
No, listen, we don't have time for dishes. That's fine. Just here's the plan with dishes. And I know we're getting off topic. Have your children grow up and they will do them.
And
that's what happened. We have 14-year-olds. Okay.
They do a great job.
I know that's right. So again, it's just great information being provided. I do want to touch on the next one in regards to, even though, again, we're talking about being a full-time mom, which like we've all expressed, that's a full-time job within itself. You know, I think so many times I feel that being a mom is kind of looked over as far as everything. Like right now I'm in the process of potty training my son, or we are in the process, but like you mentioned, mom may be a little bit more involved. And so again, being a full-time mom, that's just a job in itself. But I do ask, what are some suggestions, you know, if someone does want to become a full-time mom, or they are a full-time mom at this time, but still want to be able to generate their own income? What's some recommendations you have for them?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is take action. Like we always talk about, you have so much information out there. You can look at a lot of things and like, what am I supposed to do? What can I do? What's out there? But just get going, like make a decision.
Yeah.
And so first you want to think about what talents, skills, dreams, and desires do you have? So you can break down each one of those. What talents do you have? What are your talents? What skills what did God already bless you with? What are your dreams and desires? Like, what are your thought process out from there? So what are you already good at? If you were to ask somebody, what do they always say that you like to help out with? What are you good at? What qualifications do you already have? Any job that you had before that you really liked, like write those down.
Opportunities that you have that depend on what you have to offer. So like, what do you have to offer? And what are there any opportunities out there specifically for that? Right. Yeah. And then what you want to do is do that, brainstorm, take some time, think about all of those things, and then figure out based on your time, your schedule, your availability, your willingness, your hours, whatever.
Yeah.
Pick something, because there's so many opportunities out there. And here's the deal. The most important thing, what she just said, is decide on a path. Stop researching, stop the endless research.
You can do that forever.
Make a decision and move and take massive action. My favorite example of that is Lewis Howes, who's one of the most famous podcasters, School of Greatness. I think he's like one of the OGs, if you will. And he decided one day, I think I might start a podcast. And it wasn't like, let me research. Well, what do you need to do a podcast? What's the income stream?
Do I have to have a website? Do I have to do this?
Next day he bought something and did a podcast, because here's the deal. You're not going to know if it's going to work. You're not going to know if you like it. You have to take action, and the action brings clarity. Yeah. So then you might be like, oh, okay, I like this, but only this part of it. So now I'm going to take that, and God's going to keep putting those steps in front of you, then the next right step. But your commitment has to be take action, stop the endless research, stop thinking about it, stop maybeing, stop half stutter starting, commit to taking massive action. So massive action means I am going to keep taking action no matter what. I'm just going to keep taking the next step
and
that shows up.
Take the excuses out of it too, right? Because the enemy can come in and be like, oh, but this, oh, but you're not qualified. Oh, but you can't do this. No, just do it. Just do the thing and decide to stick with it long enough so your choice has a fighting chance. That's another one. We give up. Everyone, we give up sometimes before the item or the thing has had a chance to be successful. So you want to make sure you stick with it long enough. And like Shana said, don't get bogged down with the websites and the this and the that and the marketing and whatever. Like, just do it.
Yeah. Just decide on something, take action.
Or branding colors. Oh, don't do that.
Okay. So that's what you want to do. And again, the bias is for action. Let's stop trying to research the perfect opportunity. Just take action. You'll find out if it's a perfect opportunity pretty quickly. Okay. So then the other thing that we wanted to throw in there about this is our business is debt free. We grew up to 6 figures debt free. We think you should too. You need to make money before you spend money. Yeah. So this is another thing that people do backwards. They're like, well, I need the website. I need the equipment. I don't even know what other options there are. Make money before you spend money. And then you do not need to go into debt to have a side business or to do, I don't even want to say side business, but to start your own business. You need to, like we remember the day we could purchase Canva software, and we were so excited because we always use the free version, but we had to make money and we paid for that. And now we have a budget, and you can do a business budget the same way that you do a personal finance budget, but you don't want your business to become a burden. So therefore we don't go into debt.
Right. And use the free versions of stuff.
Yes.
Use all of it. There is so much content on how to build a business. There's so much content on how to build a podcast or how to build a website or a blogger. Or moms, if you're going back to work, like Indeed is a wonderful website that you can use to apply for jobs, right? So there's just so many things. So use the free versions. Don't think you have to buy all these courses and things to make it happen.
Yep. And then the other thing is when it comes to your personal budget, so let's say you have irregular income, maybe you're cleaning houses a couple days a week or whatever, and you don't know how to budget that. What you want to do is take that money and put it toward a goal in your budget, right? So maybe your goal in your budget was to pay off debt. Maybe it was to save up an emergency fund. Maybe it was
Vacation.
that you guys want to go on vacation. Then your money goes directly to that. And then you can keep the budget streamlined with whatever other income you have coming in to take care of the budget. And then we know every dollar I make goes here. It doesn't go in my pocket for funsies.
Right.
Or it doesn't get reinvested back in 100%
To the business.
to the
No,
business.
no, no, no.
You have to pay yourself to make it
No.
feel like
Yeah.
what you're doing is actually a job.
Yeah. And we have a whole system about that.
It's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah, it's a whole other podcast. How to pay yourself, because if you don't make money, it's a hobby, not a business,
Yeah.
right? So there's so much we could talk about there, but we just wanted to give those little bit of nuggets. But the other thing is, when you talked about balance, we started talking about balance. We're going to end talking about balance because we all want to know about balance.
Yeah.
But I think the important thing is to remember who you are in this whole thing. It's a hard transition becoming a mom, whether you stay at home, go to work, whatever. It's a hard transition.
And like Shayna said, allow yourself grace in that.
Yeah. And you are a human. You have desires, you have dreams, you have things that you like to do. You still can have those things. Real quick, the story is when we moved from Alaska to Florida, I had 2 children. One was they were both still napping. And I was so frustrated because it was so nice outside and my husband's sitting there on video games. And I'm like, I want to go to the beach. We live at the beach. And he's like, go to the beach. Why don't you go to the beach? I'm like, but the babies are asleep. He's like, Shayna, I know how to take care of them. I'm like, what? Anyway, so then I started this thing. Oh, I can go places and do something just for me. Yeah. And then of course, obviously I would come home and be like, because I'm so
your
happy.
Cup is filled.
Yeah. So make sure that you take time for you. And what's our favorite thing to say to stay-at-home moms?
Don't stay home.
That's not allowed.
Do not stay home. You will literally go into depression. I'm sorry, I don't know if that's allowed or whatever, but you will. Like, it is not okay. Do things. Go to the YMCA. Go find MOPS groups. Go to the park. Go meet a friend here. Go here. Go there. Go for a walk. Yeah. Do anything but stay home. I remember, like, I would leave my house when my kids were little and I had a home daycare. That was
like, hi, you want to be friends?
Yes. And that's basically how we met. And go to church groups, join all the things. But I would like leave my house a disaster just to not be home. Like I just did not want to be home because I wanted to be out. Otherwise, because like I knew the enemy attacked me in the quiet time when I was home. Yep. I knew that I was very aware of that. So therefore I was not alone or quiet.
Yeah.
I was doing things.
Yeah. And then we also, the way to balance really, it comes down to doing time blocking. I really feel like making sure that there's time. If there's not time in your week, and we like to do it by weeks, there's not time in your weeks to hit all the things that are important to you, then you need to refigure that out. But you do need to block out time for yourself. You do need to block out time for you and your husband. You do need to block out all the mom things that you're doing. Yeah. And then find those times. And then it's kind of like a time budget. Do I have time to do all of this? And once you block it all in there and figure it out, then you can totally be present where you are. Yeah. So when you're on the floor playing with baby, you don't have to worry about cleaning because you have time. You know that's coming, or that's already been done.
Time block is already.
And then you don't have to be like feeling guilty that you don't love your husband or ever show him anything because you have date night. That's what date nights were. And so you just have it all taken care of. It's blocked, and you can just be present where you are. And I feel like that's really what balance is. Like we said, it's different for everybody, but being able to be present where you are is what we all really truly want.
Yeah, we all strive for that.
And so like having your time blocks really will help with that. So
yeah, we coach our clients on that. And it's just like Shayna said, allowing them to be 100% present where you are, whenever you are there, and not feel guilty for anything else, because that time is already blocked for another area, another time slot. And that's okay.
Wow. Again, I'm getting all of these nuggets myself, and I know that all of our viewers are as well. It's just so much insight and just helpful recommendations that, you know, to me, even if you don't have kids, I know that my podcast is focused on the moms, but even if you don't have kids, just implementing this into your life is going to be very valuable and very important. And again, just creating that fine balance. So thank you so much, ladies. Now, if someone is interested in, you know, learning more about Ideal Balance, you know, the services that you offer, they're like, hey, I want to connect with you ladies, so I can learn even more and you can help me with this. You know, what is the best way for them to get connected with you?
Yeah, well, we have a fun guided coaching session that I think that's the best thing for them to do. And I think the link will be in the show notes, but it's ck.myidealbalance.com/guided. And what that is it takes some time for you. It's 20 minutes or so. Take some time. You'll have a workbook. Work through where you're at, where you want to be, and we're going to go through those questions with you. And it's kind of like having a life coaching session, which is kind of fun. And yeah.
But you can also find us on Facebook and Instagram, our podcast as well. It's the Ideal Balance Show.
And then on social is at My Ideal Balance. That's it. That's who we are.
Perfect. So be sure everybody go follow them. Again, get in contact with them, because again, this was just a little snippet. Of course, if we could make this podcast longer, I would, but this was just a little snippet of everything that these ladies are having or be able to provide to you. So don't miss out on this. And again, if you are just looking to be able to fine tune a few things, definitely reach out to them. They'll be able to assist with that. Now, great news for all of our viewers. You can thank Shayna, you can thank Vanessa as well, as they're going to be providing you a free guided life coach session. So be sure to click the link in the description to be able to download this amazing freebie. And again, with that, be sure to connect with them as well for further assistance. Now, Vanessa and Shayna, I do want to take time just to thank you both for taking your time out today just to come and speak with us, providing us again such amazing resourceful information and content today. And again, just important on being able to find that balance. I know I received a lot of helpful things that I'm going to be implementing. My husband's not even ready for what's about to come for him about us sitting down together and just really getting things in order for our household, with, again, finding balance for him as well as for me. And so thank you. But, as far as my viewers, I cannot end without a quote of the day. I think it's very important that we shed some light and some insight. So today's quote is going to be by Linda Wooten, and it says, "Being a mother is learning about strengths you didn't know that you had and dealing with fears you didn't know existed." I think that goes hand in hand with what we've discussed today. So what I mean by this, being a mother, it's a beautiful thing. I'm not going to discredit that at all. It is a beautiful thing. You will have fun times. And yet sometimes, even during those moments, I do catch myself worried, and fearing the unknown. But I want you to know it's important for you to stay strong. Like we've been talking about, find that balance. You're equipped with everything that you need. God has placed that in you for yourself and for your family, for you to be able to be that person to just spearhead everything, So don't be afraid to let yourself flourish. All right. Now that is our time for today. I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in. Please be sure to like, follow, subscribe, share, comment. Do the same for Shayna as well as Vanessa in Ideal Balance. Go and find them, okay? So you can stay up to date with all of their content as well. And I want you to be sure to tune in to the next episode. I'm going to be discussing, like I mentioned, my son is 19 months. We have started potty training. Nobody warned me about this and what this was going to come with, but it is exciting. It's fun. And so we're going to be getting more into that on the next episode. So be sure to tune in. But until then, I want you to be sure to keep your head up, because your little one is always watching and admiring you. And continue to take care. I'm your host, Ashley L., and we'll see you next time on I'm the Mama Podcast. See ya.